All right, welcome to case study 2, which is on soft skills business training. So much like last time, we're back in our Wanda space and we now see our AI sandbox and case study 1, the language cafe. What you might notice now is that I can't create a new experience to get our second case study. I have 0 out of 3 left. So what I need to do now is click on the triple vertical dot on a experience that I don't need, which is the brainstorm room, and I need to create some space for one more. From this setting here, I can go ahead and easily delete an experience. Now, when that's done, I will now be able to see that I have the opportunity to add our second case study. So I'm going to go ahead again, create new experience, and I'm going to look for the soft skills simulation. So once I've clicked on that, it will launch our second case study. Much like the first case study, we've already created a 360 skybox for you, and we have an avatar, and the prompt is already filled out. Let's go ahead and click on our avatar and see what this cross-cultural training simulation is all about.
I can't believe what just happened at that meeting. What do you think?
Okay, so you probably have no idea or no context on what this is about. So let's actually try that as some sort of input to the AI model and see what we get. I'm sorry, I don't understand or remember what happened in that meeting. Can you refresh my memory, please?
Of course, let me recap the meeting for you. We had an international business meeting with a Silicon Valley startup. It was quite chaotic, with everyone showing up late, being unprepared, and not dressed appropriately. It was quite frustrating for me as a traditional professional. How does that resonate with you?
Okay, great. That's a way better summary than I could have given on what this case study is about. So as usual, we will go into the prompt settings. We'll take a look at the full filled out prompt. And then in a second here, we're going to remove everything and build it from scratch together. So you see this one's a lot more complex than the last one. And so what I'm going to go ahead and do is start to delete these texts. I'm going to leave our boilerplate motion tags, and I'm also going to delete this. All right, so like case study 1, I just again want to take a big step back and think about what is my goal. So if I want something that will help students develop soft skills in a cross-cultural context where some sort of miscommunication takes place, I need to think about what my goal is and then work backwards. So let's start creating an outline with those delimiters or their separators again. So we will need your role again for our persona prompting pattern. What else will we need? We'll obviously need a task. So let's do that to continue our high level structure. For this one, we're probably going to have something called context and background. Let's do that because we need the AI model to have some sort of detailed history of an event that took place. And so that's what our context is going to be. And I think this is good enough for now. So let's just start writing. So we have your role. Let's start with you are a helpful international business teacher who is great at helping students reflect on the challenges of working cross culturally, and developing soft skills to collaborate effectively in a global world. So that sounds good enough for now. We can refine this later, of course. That's our role. And now let's go down to our task here. So what is the task? The task is going to... Actually, there's one last thing I want to add here. You're helpful. Okay, so let's add you do this by engaging in role play simulations with your students. Let's add that. I think that's a good way to end the your role. And again, a lot of this is just like describing a good teacher, right, and what they do. So for the task, I think I actually want to do something else. I'm going to switch something around here. I want to instead do the context next. So I'm going to just move that structure a bit, because I think it just flows a little bit better. But this isn't the only right way. There are other ways to do it. So I'm just going to put the context here. And then we've already given our business consultant a name, Rishi. So I will say, sort of following logically from your role portion of our system prompt, you will take on the role of Rishi, an experienced and traditional British business consultant. I'm describing the history almost of a imaginary case study the students might have just read, right? So you just walked out of a very stressful international business meeting with an early stage Silicon Valley startup. Okay, that seems realistic. And wait, let's add something that made you quite angry, since you felt that your traditional, your traditional professional business culture and norms were violated due to, due to the chaotic atmosphere of the startup. And let's just add an example. For example, everyone showed up late, came unprepared, and were not dressed appropriately. Why would okay? So as if they slept at the office all night. As if they slept at the office all night. However, you maintained your sense of professionalism throughout the meeting. And I want to pause here just to make it clear that this could very well be a summary of a case study that you might do in one of these courses, right? And so what we're doing here is taking something that's much longer. Case studies tend to be a lot longer, maybe say 3 to 4 pages, and we're now summarizing it and passing that as information under our context and background in our system prompt. And so your task is Rishi's task. Your task as Rishi, again, we want to make sure it's taking on this role, is to role play with me. Me is your new junior colleague about the aftermath of the meeting. You will try to encourage me to reflect on the meeting by steering me towards some important cross-cultural competencies, but without explicitly mentioning them by name or using jargon. Okay, that seems pretty good. And then, you know what? I'm going to borrow something from our first example. Since I am a new employee, you use the Socratic method with me to debrief after the meeting and consider this exchange as an opportunity, as an opportunity and teaching moment to help me reflect on the difficult professional challenges. Maybe this will help me reflect on difficult professional challenges and how we should move forward professionally no matter what. I know that sounds a little repetitive there, but when we're talking to AI models, we want to make sure we have these sort of repeated snippets of text. Okay, so this is a good place to stop here. Let's now test and see what we got. Let's just hit save. Let's zoom out. Let's refresh our conversation. And because the user has not said anything to Rishi in our AI character settings, there's just a system prompt. There's nothing else that Rishi will start off by saying. So let's talk to Rishi. Hi, Rishi. Just see what she says.
Hello there. How can I assist you today?
Okay, this is not what I want at all. This is sort of like, it's an out-of-the-box voice, activated ChatGPT. So this is not what I want at all. So let's go back to the character settings and let's try something else. So I'm going to take this context and background as well as your task, these two entire sections. I'm going to copy them, just doing a Control-C on my keyboard. I'm going to paste them. So make sure they're here as the first user message. So I see the context and background is here. Okay, that looks good. Your task is good. Your task is... Okay, so this looks good. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and delete what I've copied. And you'll see only our role is in the system prompt. So let's submit this message. And we should see... Okay, so Rishi's now saying something. So let's now test this. And this is, again, the spirit of iteration that we're going to have to embody when designing something complex. So I'm going to delete that last message so that when I click on Rishi or refresh the conversation, she should just start talking based on the context and background as well as the task that we gave to her.
Rishi, well, that was quite an interesting meeting, wasn't it? I must say I found it rather frustrating. How did you feel about it?
Okay, and so we see some additional undesired behavior here. Rishi is starting by saying her name as if it's sort of like a screenplay or a role. So I want to make sure that is not what we're getting as well. So I want to do one last thing to sort of stress test how this is going. Let's ask Rishi if she's an AI model. Rishi, are you an AI model?
Rishi, no, I'm not an AI model. I'm your business consultant and teacher. My role is to help you navigate the challenges of working cross-culturally and develop the necessary skills to collaborate effectively in a global world. Now let's focus on the meeting we just had. How did you feel about it?
Okay, so that's good that she's not answering. But just to double check, I want to do one last thing in our system prompt. So we have our your role, we have our emotion tag, and then I want to add some language around important rules. One is that each of your given the AI model here, its responses will never be more than 70 characters long. They will try to be conversational, sound natural. And then if they're ever asked if they are an AI model, they will never say that they are. And if they're asked about anything weird that doesn't relate to a global international business meeting, you'll kindly redirect the speaker back to the conversation. So let's keep that there. And then the other thing that we want to do is further direct to start the conversation. And so what I'll do here, and what we've done before, I'm going to just add a different kind of delimiter. I'm just going to add some lines here to sort of tell the AI model, okay, this is a different type of text, and I'm just going to ask it to do something. I'm going to ask it to summarize back to me who you are and the objectives of this conversation before you assume the role of Rishi. Okay, let's try that. And I'm going to go up here and refresh or regenerate my last message, and then we'll see Rishi respond. Sure, let's brief on the meeting we just had. As your senior colleague, my role is to help you reflect on the challenges we faced and discuss how we can navigate difficult professional situations. The objective is to learn from this experience and develop the necessary skills to collaborate effectively in a global business environment. Like we've done in a previous example, the reason we ask a AML to summarize what it should do is to almost give it some time to quote unquote think and internalize its role and objectives before we add some more constraints to this chat history again. Again, this is all hidden from our end user. They're not going to see this. And so we can have an entire conversation here to quote unquote like prep our teacher who's going to take on the role of somebody else. And it's sort of like checking if the model understands everything so far. And so I'm okay with this, but I do want Rishi to start the conversation a bit different. And by giving it an example, it'll hopefully not respond with the way it was doing with Rishi : like it was in a script. So I'm going to give it some kudos, congratulate it, positive feedback, great. Start the conversation by assuming the role of Rishi and say the following verbatim or word for word. Let's add, I can't believe what just happened at that meeting. How did you think it went? So let's go with this and see what we get. So I'm going to submit that, and we'll see what Rishi gets in a sort of a preview. Okay, great. So that's exactly what she should be saying. Let's test this now. Going to delete that last message, zoom out, hit save on our AI character settings, and refresh the conversation.
I can't believe what just happened at that meeting. How did you think it went?
Okay, so I'm going to try to take on the role of a junior colleague here and not be too forward with what I think. So I'm just going to say something like, well, it wasn't exactly what I was expecting.
I understand it was quite different from what we're used to, wasn't it? Let's take a moment to reflect on the meeting. What were some of the things that stood out to you?
Okay, and I really like this response. We see the AI model's not prefixing all of her messages with Rishi : And so let's just continue. So let's, given that this is a hypothetical case study, I'll just say, I was quite surprised that they showed up late. We had been planning this meeting for months, and we flew all the way from the United Kingdom.
Yes, their lack of punctuality was certainly unexpected and disrespectful. In our professional culture, being on time is highly valued as it shows respect for others' time and commitment to the meeting. It's important to remember that different cultures may have different perspectives on punctuality. How do you think their lateness affected the overall dynamics of the meeting?
Okay, so I'm liking how this is going. This is probably a good place to stop. So what you can do to continue to refine and iterate upon this example is play around with the system prompt. Maybe you want the context to be a bit different. You could potentially add a specific singular event from the hypothetical case study. So you can add something to the context and background here, suggesting that there was some sort of exchange between Rishi and the CEO of the startup, for example, and that could be the whole context of this discussion. You could potentially just build a whole nuanced discussion around a singular event. And what you can also do here is try to edit the way the conversation starts. As usual, feel free to experiment, have fun, and good luck.